All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Brandy, and I'm here today to help you out with some reading skills, specifically as they apply to the CELPIP test. And I see that Shobit has already commented in the Zoom chat that reading is a tricky skill and you're looking for assistance. So I'm hoping tonight's episode will give you a little bit of a boost so that you'll find it easier the next time you study. So I'm going to quickly review how the CELPIP reading test is structured, just in case a few of you are a little bit new to it all. So there are 4 reading parts in total, and from a time Okay, there we go. From a time management standpoint, you are going to have anywhere from 9 to 13 minutes to work through a given part. And you'll see the timer on your screen, so you'll know roughly how much time is left to finish up. Also, at any given part, there will be between 8 to 11 questions. And again, you don't have to memorize these precise numbers, but I think since we're talking about managing our time, coming into the test recognizing roughly how long each passage is a good starting place anyway. And I'm going to let you know that the reading test is designed specifically to increase in level of difficulty as this test moves on. And tonight, I'm going to quickly walk us through all 4 parts. We're going to examine some sample reading passages from a past CELPIP test. And we're going to answer some practice questions relating to those parts so that we can practice these time management tips I'm going to share with you. So you'll see what I mean by when we start out in reading part 1, it's probably going to be the fastest section. We'll get through it quickly. And as we work into parts 3 and 4, you're going to notice a marked increase in challenge. But if we apply the same reading strategies in each part, I'm hoping it's going to feel a little bit more manageable for you. So we'll start off with tip number 1. We're going to do it this way tonight, and I hope that you try this at least once when you're studying and see if it works for you. But I would strongly recommend that we make sure we understand the main topic of the passage first and the main ideas of each paragraph before we even look at the questions. So usually on a CELPIP reading passage, you'll have about 4 or possibly 5 different paragraphs. So we're not going to spend our time reading each and every sentence slowly and carefully. We won't finish the test in that case. Instead, we're going to skim read. And when we skim, our eyes go very quickly, usually over the first sentence or so of each paragraph, and we're looking just for the key points. And I'll demonstrate what that looks like, and you're going to help me with it in just a minute. We're not really interested at all at the beginning of the specific details. When we get to the questions later on, when we figure out what we're supposed to be looking for in the passage, that would be a better time to really dive deeply in and pull out those very particular details. But we're going to spend anywhere from about 20 to 40 seconds when we begin each reading part to skim read quickly and just get acquainted with the main ideas. So let's get started now with our reading part 1. It's called Reading for Correspondence, and correspondence is simply like an email or a letter. So I'm going to quickly show you basically what a part looks like for reading part 1. You don't have to read the words. I know they're very tiny, but if you just recognize right now that your questions for every single reading passage are going to be found on the right-hand side of your computer screen. Usually there are 2 sets of questions like you see here. And then the passage you'll be reading is on the left-hand side of the very same computer screen, which is convenient so you can look for ideas back and forth. So the actual passage that we're going to workshop right now together is here in front of you. I've numbered the paragraphs myself in orange just to keep us organized. But on your actual test, I think you recognize that the entire passage will be vertical, but I've sort of spliced it into 2 columns so that we can see the entire thing on one slide here on Zoom. So what we would do for this reading part 1, I'm going to add one little step in that takes about 2 seconds of your time. I always want you to quickly look at the bottom of the email first. Just recognize the name of this writer, and this person's name you can see is Martin Robertson. Up at the top then, we notice the reader's name, and her name looks like it's Ms. Marino. All right, so later on, I'm very confident you're going to have questions about these 2 people. So if we recognize them now, when we get to their names in the questions, it's just going to make a lot more sense. We'll have a better understanding and understand more quickly as well. So again, that takes about 2 seconds tops just to look at those 2 names. It's not too hard. The first paragraph of any piece of writing, whether it's part 1 or the advanced level part 4, it's the first paragraph that usually gives you the main topic of the entire piece. So this is where you want to spend just a couple of seconds at least looking over. And usually, not always, but very often the topic is going to be presented right away. And if you can please look at paragraph 1 right now, you'll notice that in the very, very first line, you can see the name of something. This one says Video Atlantic is shutting down. So when we as readers are trying to grab details quickly, it's always the who and the what that are the most important details that we want our eyes to notice. And Video Atlantic is capitalized, right? Capital V and A in the middle of a sentence. So right away, we can deduce, we can assume that this is probably the name of a store. It's likely a video store. And we've read here that it's shutting down. And as you skim quickly over the other lines in paragraph 1, the only other detail to me that is more of a general overview or helping me understand this, Martin Robertson wrote this, and he's noticing that this video store has shut down, and he recognizes that it's a real shame. So already, just by pulling those few details out, it's giving us the impression that Martin's not too happy that this store is closing. So that's really all we want to know for now. We can come back and read about DVDs and other types of films later. Right now, we don't want to waste the time. It's not important yet because we don't know what the questions are. Down to paragraph 2, you'll notice it starts off by mentioning very particular details like 24 hours a day and $10 a month. Not interested. This is not important right now. We're just going to keep skimming until we can pull out a key point. And right kind of halfway down there, I noticed something that Martin's writing. It's the internet has changed. And he's saying, there's nothing better than browsing through the collection of DVDs. So you can see now the coherence of this piece. We learned that this video store is closing. Martin's not happy about it. So it simply makes sense that that idea is going to be continued and emphasized all the way through. Clearly, again, Martin is just showing how dissatisfied he is with the changes. He really likes it the way it was, not interested in moving forward, it would appear. And we can skip over, I think, the rest of these details because they're just talking about particular movies and DVDs, and we're not at all interested in details quite yet. Moving on to paragraph 3 now, I'm interested to find out more about Video Atlantic and Martin's feelings on it. So my eyes are going to skip over those details about Martin's wife and what she likes to watch. That part doesn't interest us quite yet. But halfway down, I want you to look for something to do with Video Atlantic because this does seem to be the topic. So Video Atlantic, we are told, is where they used to rent. I recognize this little sort of conjunction here, nowadays. And I'm not surprised to read the next line to see that Martin just finds it way too expensive nowadays if he were to go to the movies, right? So I move on down and everything is supporting the same main thought. Martin just wants to go back to the way it was, keep that video store open. He's not interested in moving forward with different changes is all. Okay, paragraph 4, nothing new to note. It's just that he's really sad about the store closing. And paragraph 5, as my eyes quickly skim there, I noticed that the store is having a sale, an end of an era sale, and it looks like they're getting rid of all of their old DVDs since they're going out of business. Okay, now I've talked you through this process of skimming through for the main points and what to look for. We've talked about it for a couple of minutes now, but when you're skim reading on your own, this process for your reading part 1 should take you no more than 20 to 30 seconds, I will suggest. You only have 5 paragraphs here, so even spending 5 seconds per paragraph is a pretty good time management detail. And when you know what to look for, in this case, the who and the what, Martin's unhappy, the video store is closing. And if you can just find those details throughout, you're setting yourself up to go through these questions really quickly. So you're putting in a bit of work now, but watch how quickly we are going to answer these questions. Here's question number 1 relating to this passage we've just skimmed. You can see it says, why did Mr. Robertson, so that would be Martin, write to Ms. Marino? So she's the store owner. We already know that. Here are your 4 answer choices. And without even looking back to the passage, in the Zoom chat box, are you able to tell me what the answer is right away? Just from skim reading and understanding the general thoughts. I think this is going to be so quick. I think that in about 5 or 6 seconds flat, you're going to have a really good sense of what the right answer is. So why did Martin, Mr. Robertson, write to Ms. Marino? Have a quick look. Does he want to buy more DVDs? Is he upset about the store's future? Does he think that maybe Ms. Marino should sell her products online? Or is he just very sad that she has found another job? We're being asked to find the main thought or the main point behind this article. So the whole piece has to relate to it. And I only see about 3 guesses right now, a couple more coming in. I'll give you 5 more seconds at the outset to see if we have sort of an overwhelming majority of guesses in our Zoom chat. And it looks like most of you are sticking with answer choice B, and that is exactly the first idea that popped into my mind. I would be confident enough, and maybe some of you are, that I don't even have to go back and look at the passage. I know that this is the right answer based on what we just skimmed. But of course, I do want to show you where we got this information from. So here are the first 2 paragraphs, and I've left the underlining of those key points there. So Video Atlantic shutting, it's a shame. There's nothing better than browsing at your store, and here's our next page where, oh, nowadays it's too expensive. I really wanted to rent your DVDs, etc. It's a big shame. It's sad to see you go. So every single paragraph relates back to answer choice B. It's really the only idea that is captured in all of those paragraphs. That's how we know that this is the right answer. And as I say, skimming first gives us those thoughts. So it's very quick. Okay, moving on to question 2. I think this one's even faster if you ask me. What will Video Atlantic soon do? And here are your choices. If you'd like, you can go ahead and answer this in the Zoom chat, and I think you'll all get it like that. It's very obvious, as I say, once we've skimmed through and recognized these main thoughts. This is more of a specific detail, but it was given to us very, very quickly. What will Video Atlantic soon do? Will it close down its store? Will it make a library donation? Will it increase its rental fees or hold a large video sale? Okay. All right. We're getting a couple of different answers in here. A few of you are selecting D. I can actually, now that I see you selecting D, I guess I can understand what you were thinking. You were thinking of the video store itself. What's it soon going to do? Some of you are talking about that end of an era sale, and that's not quite accurate. Video Atlantic, as we know right from the first paragraph, is simply shutting down. That's what's going to happen. And again, that is the better of the 2 answers because it's the main idea. Yes, that there is going to be an end of an era sale, but if I can split hairs, which is an expression that means if you look at the meaning here, it's not necessarily the store that's holding the sale. It's Ms. Marino herself. She's the store owner, and she's having this big sale to get rid of the DVDs, etc., that nobody else will buy. And the reason they're not going to be able to buy them any longer is because answer choice A is correct. This is what the entire store is going to do very soon. It's going to close down. And as I say, we got that right from the first sentence. So interesting, when I first read this, I didn't even consider answer choice D, but now that I see a few people having selected that, I can see maybe why. But does my explanation make sense, I hope? You're looking at what the store is going to do and not what the store owner is going to do. So sometimes we have to just sort of look at it with a bit more of a closer lens is all. So that would be the right answer there. We don't have time to do all the answers clearly tonight, but I skipped ahead to question 5. This one maybe is a little harder to get off the top. I think for this, you might have to go back to the passage and review. But we honestly have talked about this already. I think you can answer it now. Why does Mr. Robertson prefer renting DVDs to going to the cinema? I distinctly remember, my mind works this way. I know this is in paragraph 3. I've got a very good memory for where details are found. Maybe some of you do as well. We talked about this in paragraph number 3. I remember it quite well. And it looks like a lot of you are remembering it too. You're saying it's answer choice B. And I'd have to agree with you. When you go back to paragraph 3 at the top here, this is the part where he is talking a little bit about his wife's preferences. But remember, he says, oh, it was so much better to rent your DVDs. And he's complaining about how expensive it is now just to go to the cinema. So clearly it would be cheaper or cost less money to rent a DVD. So again, I do a lot of Zoom webinars every month for people around the world. And sometimes I get students saying, oh, I don't want to take the time to read the passage first. I just want to go right to the questions. And honestly, if that works better for you and you find that you're faster doing it that way, I still want you to do it that way. You need to find a way that works best for you. But after practice, the vast majority of the people I work with in my webinars tend to see the benefit of skimming first. So as I said, if you've never tried this method before, at least give it a try when you study next. If it works, continue to use it, as I say, and if not, you'll have to adjust. but it's usually so much faster once you put a bit of time in first, just reading over the passage. So the second tip I wanted to share, I'm going to point out to you, especially in this first reading part, it's interesting to note that your questions will usually follow the same order as the ideas that are presented. So what that means then is once you've answered the first question, chances are you would just continue sort of where you left off in the passage to find details for question 2 and question 3 and so on. So when you look at the whole passage, you don't have to take the time to read the entire passage to answer each question. I don't think you'd have time if you did it that way. So I'll prove my point here, if you don't mind. So the very first question, if you remember that we answered, was asking us, why did Mr. Robertson write to Ms. Marino? So that's pretty much the main idea of the entire piece. So that's why I've got all 5 paragraphs here showing, and I've underlined again what we talked about. So let's call that the first question. We're sort of looking at the big picture. So that comes first, that makes sense. The second question that we talked about, the second question, remember, was what will Video Atlantic do? And I just want to show you where we got that information from here. It was right away in the first paragraph. Now, we didn't answer question 3. For time, I've skipped it, but I wanted to let you know if we had answered question 3, this is where it would have been found. And likewise with question 4, we didn't answer that one, but this is where it comes in the text. We did answer question 5, and this is the one that says, why does Mr. Robertson prefer renting DVDs? So that was where we found that detail. And then question 6, if we'd have done that one, is right here. So there could be some exceptions. I always want you to use your best judgment on a future test, but I would say as a rule of thumb, which is a casual expression, meaning most times, especially in these easier parts of the test, you should be able to notice an order. And just knowing the way this is structured is so helpful as a time-saving device later on. So if you're trying to answer that last question on your test and time is running low, chances are it's probably somewhere towards the bottom of the whole reading passage. So I hope that saves somebody a little bit of time later anyway. Anyway, you did quite well with that. That was kind of a warm-up, I would say. We're going to dive now into reading part 2, which is all about reading to apply a diagram. So as a time management tip, we're still going to skim the diagram to get comfortable with it. I call this previewing, just sort of looking at the diagram. And particularly for the second reading part, we want to figure out right away what we're looking at. So is this diagram a schedule? Is it a poster? Is it a syllabus for school? So looking at the pictures in the diagram and the words on screen should quickly allow us to figure out what the topic is or what the purpose is. Here's a huge tip for reading comprehension. When you're looking at any type of digital media print, like a poster or a flyer, you probably recognize that some of the words on these print media are sometimes in different colors. Sometimes they're all in capital letters. Sometimes these words have different fonts, different sizes. Maybe they've been centered on screen. Whatever these words are doing, they're very different from the other words in the passage. So I really want you to notice the words that stand out on these diagrams you're looking at. Chances are those are the key points that you're going to need to then quickly understand what you're looking for in the diagram to answer questions. So that's the easy part. You're literally just looking and what's standing out to you and what does it mean. This part takes just a little bit more practice, skimming, but it's manageable. If we can figure out what type of information, what type of details are located in this picture, and even better, if we can look for patterns or ordered details, it is going to make it so fast for us to locate the details we need in order to answer the questions that follow. So just to set this up, I'll show you what a part 2 could look like. We're not workshopping this exact question, but just to show you, that's the diagram there. You can see pictures and words. And over here are the 2 sets of questions. Notice that top set of questions is another email. So we're now comfortable working with email, so it should be easy for us to handle this one, I hope. So here's the diagram we're going to workshop today. Now remember, on your actual test, you would have all 4 parts of the diagram vertically down the computer screen. But for practice today, what I've done is just put 2 different columns side by side to make the words big enough so that we can see the whole thing on one screen, right? So the format's a little different, but we'll work with it in this format. I think that should be okay. So when we preview, when we look at this diagram right away, of course, we notice the pictures. They're the biggest things here. And in the corner of each picture, you see a word in red. So it's different from everything else. And each of these words starts with a capital letter. So right away, we know these words are designed to stand out. And it makes sense, right? It's train, plane, bus, and car. So if I had to ask you, and I will ask you right now, what are we looking at? I think it's obvious, but I always like to ask to make sure. Just by looking at the pictures and these titles, what do you think we're looking at here? And look at the rest of the words. So what type of visual is this designed to do? What's its purpose? Once you come up with its purpose, it's just easier to understand the whole thing. And Shobit's got it. Yeah, it's just travel modes. And when you look at the type of information included, we could do that next. Okay, so this would be the first column all the way down your computer screen. I don't see any patterns, but what I am noticing is that all the details here are, I'll call them amenities or specifics that relate to each type of transportation, as Anushka is saying. So we're told if a certain method of transportation is, what class it is, if bags are allowed, if there are washroom breaks, if food is provided. So again, I'm not memorizing these details. I'm just glancing really quickly down all 4 sections on this diagram. So I know what types of information is there, because later when I go to the questions, it'll help jog my memory as to what I'm looking for in the passage. The second column is a lot easier. There's only 2 details, but look for the pattern here. The top detail in each part of your diagram is the cost. And then right below that is the length or the duration of the trip. So if you were to get a question about the cost of something, you're not going to waste your time looking at the entire diagram. Instead, what you're going to do is go to that second column and look just at the first detail in each of those 4 sections. So it really reduces your workload by 80%, I'll suggest, right? It's very fast then to find the details when you know where to look and what you're looking for. So here's what we'll do. We'll practice one question just to put this into good practice here. Again, the diagram's on the left, and I know it's small. I will make it bigger in just a moment, but I wanted to show you what the whole thing would look like on the actual computer screen in one vertical row. You can see the email nice and big, so we can read the words. Just like we did for reading part 1, I would suggest you quickly look down at the writer's name and the reader's name. So Peter's writing to Janice. Can I ask all of you online here, can you quickly skim read, just like we did in reading part 1, skim read the first 4 lines here, right before question 1. So this is the introduction to Peter's email. And if you could pull out the keywords, I would recommend, there's about 3 words here that I think are really important. Look for the who or the what. All right, write those keywords for me in the Zoom chat that tell us precisely what Peter is writing about. I think right away, when we just skim read over those first 3-4 sentences or lines, we know right away what it is Peter's writing about. And once we know the purpose, it really puts the whole picture together and allows us to more fully understand. Yeah. Okay, so Shobit is suggesting it's a presentation. Oh, you're paraphrasing. Okay, sure. Yeah. Shobit is saying that Peter has not yet made a decision on commuting. So you basically have summarized in your own words what's going on. And that's great. If some of us don't have the practice paraphrasing, but if you're looking just at these first couple of lines, I think where Shobit is getting that information from would probably be here. I skipped over a presentation, but I did go right to research, which is kind of the same thing. So my eyes grabbed research on travel, and I grabbed that word travel because it just relates so clearly to the pictures I'm looking at. So it has something to do with Peter researching or looking into travel. And it's to go to a conference. That's the piece that I don't see anybody have commented on yet. And he's presenting his findings or his options. Now, there's one more piece here that's not stated directly, but I think we can imply, yeah, this is what it's all about. So Rita, yeah. So Peter seems to me to be writing to Janice because I think those 2 are going to be traveling to a conference together. That would make the most sense to me. Why else would he be writing to Janice? To give her his findings on research about how to get to this conference and to present his options or his findings. So we're making a little bit of an inference or an assumption here that Peter and Janice probably work together. And Peter is just tossing it to Janice saying, here's what I found about getting to the conference. And I wouldn't be surprised if he then asks for her input later on. So again, skimming over just those first few lines to figure out what this is all about is going to help. You do have five different questions to answer. We only have time to do one for this part. And I'm going to suggest we do the second one. I've skipped over number 1 for now. So what I'll do here is I'll show you the sentences leading into that second question. And on the test, when you click that little drop down arrow, it's going to open up the 4 possible answer choices, as you can see. So I'll just read out loud sort of where we're starting to get into the second question. And I want you to think about which parts of the diagram are going to be helpful. Of those 4 parts, which ones should we be looking for? This is what I want you to figure out. So right now on screen, it says, the train seems more relaxed and we have plenty of time to get some work done if needed. It, meaning the train, I guess, either is priced lower, costs more, is less convenient, or seems slower than I had expected, especially when compared to airfares. So if you had to pull out 2 words and 2 words only from what I just read to you, what would those 2 words be? I'm only looking for 2 keywords, and your ability to find keywords and understand what you're supposed to look for in the diagram is going to lead to a very fast completion of this section. Yeah. So Gemma's given us one of them, which is airfare. Yeah, that's one of them. What's the other part of the diagram that we are meant to look at here? Yeah, I'm not asking you to answer the question yet. You can't answer it until I show you the diagram. Otherwise, you're just guessing, and I don't want you to guess. Nobody's that good. But yeah, so we've got here Gemma giving us trains. So thank you both for doing that. So this is the process, right? You read this couple of sentences leading into question 2, and you should, step 1, recognize, okay, there's 4 methods of transportation, but for this question, I only need to look at the train and the airplane. That is it. I'm not concerned with the other parts because it doesn't matter right now. So time management is figuring out what to look for and not wasting your time elsewhere. So here's the train, here's the plane. All right, so those are the only 2 parts we know now that we're going to be looking at. Now, here's the thing. Here's the next piece to the puzzle. It's not hard, but you have to have a very good eye for detail when you're doing any type of language test. And notice that the words I've underlined don't say train and plane. They say train and airfare. So the word airfare, yes, clearly relates to the airplane. That's a match. But the word airfare relates very closely to the cost or to the price of something. And when you look at those 4 answer choices, as I read them out to you, there are only 2 options there that even relate to the cost or the price, which would be either answer choice A or answer choice B. And we already know, because we previewed the diagram earlier, that that second column is the one that gives us the cost of every method of transportation. So now this is fast. This is so quick. We look first at the train. It's the first detail. We read here that the train costs $260 return, whereas the airplane, it costs $240 return. So the train, clearly from this diagram, is just a little bit more expensive than the airplane. So can I now ask you to answer this question, put it all together and choose the right answer that fits that blank? Now it's going to make sense, I think. Yeah. Everybody has it right now. You didn't before because you were jumping ahead. You have to look at the diagram. You can't just make it up from scratch. But yeah, this definitely makes the most sense, right? We're talking about cost. Airfare has nothing to do, less convenient and slower has nothing to do with the cost of any method of transportation. So recognizing that these last 2 answer choices are irrelevant, let's just ignore them. Why waste our time on something that's not going to lead us to the right answer? And again, we went with cost more because the way this question is written, the train is mentioned first, the plane is mentioned second. And because it's the train that's more expensive than the plane, that's why it makes sense to do it this way. So it, meaning the train, costs more than I had expected, especially when compared to airfare, is what Peter is writing. So that is the right answer. And again, when you find those keywords, find the info in the diagram, you answer this question very, very quickly. Yeah. So that is your time management tip number 4, is don't even waste your time looking at answer choices that clearly don't relate back to what you're supposed to be focusing on in the question, right? It's just you have a time limit and you want to maximize your focus on the details that really, really matter. Yes. Yeah. Because we're not talking about time, Raj, that's why. Yeah, we're talking about the cost. Yeah, the whole question was about the airfare. So it doesn't matter how long it takes to get anywhere. We're only focused on the cost. That's why. Yeah, you have to have a good eye for detail, as I say, when you're doing these language tests. All right, let us move on to reading part 3. You are going to notice a shift now. This is the second half of the reading test. There are 4 parts. We are now moving into intermediate level territory. So having a more widely developed vocabulary is certainly going to be helpful. But even if your vocab isn't quite as developed as others, we're still going to apply these same abilities to skim and scan, figure out what we're looking for and finding it, as we did in the first 2 practices. So just to kickstart this, I'll show you the passage first. On the left is always the reading passage, but I want you to take note of the letters this time. A, B, C, D, and E. You notice how every paragraph has a little letter right in front of it. And over here on the right, we still have our questions, yes. But notice there are only 9, they're not even questions, quite frankly. I'll show you closer. There's only 1 set of questions, but there's not a single question on the screen. All of these numbered lines are sentences or statements. And you'll notice that the answer box itself is at the left or at the beginning of each line. And when you open them, all of the answer boxes will say the same, all the way down, A, B, C, D, and E. And the reason for that is because your reading part 3 is a matching activity. So of those 9 statements, you'll start with number 1, clearly. Your job is to read that statement, and you have to pull out the key points, the key words. You have to understand what that statement is talking about. And then you're going to try to find that same idea captured very accurately within this passage. Let's just pretend for argument's sake, you've located that idea and you've matched it to something in paragraph D, and it's accurate. You would then select D as your answer to statement number 1. And then you'd move on to the second statement and you would keep going. What makes part 3 challenging, other than the upper level vocab and the more complex sentence structures and so on, what makes it even more challenging is for this part, there is no order. Remember in reading part 1, it was relatively straightforward that the questions just went in the order of the passage. Not the case here at all. So it's just going to be random. Question 1 might match paragraph D. Statement 2 might match paragraph A, and so on. So you're going to have to rely on your ability to match vocabulary and ideas. There is no pattern and there is no way to hack the test. It all depends on what you're reading. Statement E at the very bottom adds an extra layer of challenge. So E here says not given in any of the above paragraphs. So if you get a statement that you can't find in here, maybe that's just the case. If it's not there, you're going to select E as the answer. Okay, some tests might have a couple of answer E's. Other CELPIP tests might not have any answer E's. So again, lots of challenge going on here. So we have to rely on our reading strategies that we've been practicing. All right, so here are our letters. We're still going to skim this passage though, exactly as we did reading part 1, even though it's higher level. So remember, our first paragraph should give us the main topic of the entire passage. Oftentimes, it's the very first sentence of your introductory paragraph that will do that. Remember how the who and the what is always most important. So can you look at paragraph A, and from the first sentence alone in the Zoom chat, can you pull out for me 4 words that very effectively capture the topic that you think this entire passage is going to be about? Just copy them word for word right into the Zoom chat, and we'll see how fast you can find them. You don't have to look hard because they're right there, right at the beginning of paragraph A. We'll see if somebody can capture them really quickly, and then I'll underline them here. Yeah, Samuela is on it. Thank you for doing that, Samuela. Healthcare in Canada. So once you've read a ton of reading passages, not just on the CELPIP test, but in the real world, you just start to understand, oh, well, the author put these words at the beginning of the first paragraph. That's probably what this whole passage is about. So really, that's all I want to know for here. And even if I let my eyes quickly go over that first paragraph, I see more mentions of Canada and other medical services. I'm quite certain that this is what our topic is. So step 1, identify the topic. I would go on to paragraph B and just confirm that each paragraph is discussing this topic. So we want to look for words that are associated with healthcare in Canada. And paragraph B, do you notice the very first line talks about medical coverage. So the wording's a bit different, but it's still on topic. It's still talking about medical or healthcare. And then Canada was mentioned third line down. Sorry, Marcella, I took that before you were able to identify, but you got it right. Paragraph C is not quite as obvious, but I'm hoping you're recognizing this word. It just mentions services, and dental care, Samuela, is there, but dental care, remember, is a specific type of medical service. And right now, we just want the main ideas. We will come back to the specifics later when we actually see the statements, because then we'll know what to look for. But to make this so fast, we just want to go boom, 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 boom. Is this all about medical care? And I would say, yeah, this is about services. A lot of other details here are very specific. So I'm just going to skip down to paragraph D. I want to verify we're still talking about healthcare in Canada. And here are the words that I'm looking for. So here's your next time management tip. I know it sounds like more work, but it's going to save you time in the long run, in my opinion. For reading part 3, I strongly recommend you take notes. We're going to do this together in session now. You're going to create what's called an outline. And an outline is first going to identify the topic of the passage. So if this was your actual test question, you are given paper and pen in the testing room. So on the top of that piece of paper, I would want you to write healthcare in Canada. And it just keeps your mind focused on that main topic. And that's maybe the easier part. The next part is we're going to look a little bit more carefully at each of those paragraphs, and we're going to try to pull out what the focus is of each paragraph. So we now know the whole thing talks about healthcare, but every single paragraph is going to have its own specific topic as it relates to healthcare. And this is where some of your ideas that you're already putting in the Zoom chat are going to come into play. Okay, understanding main ideas first will help us later on match these statements. We're basically looking for a starting point each time we have a statement to match. So here's paragraph A. Again, we know the topic is all about healthcare in Canada. What I will do, and I'll demonstrate this process first, just to show you what I'm meaning here. Your eyes are just looking for the main idea of the paragraph. We're not too interested yet in specific details. Again, we can come back to those later, but knowing this is about healthcare in Canada, the very first, it looks like a general idea to me. It looks like a lot of people just assume that healthcare is free in Canada. And then right below that, I read that some people are really surprised that that's not the case. Sometimes you do have to pay. And as I continue to read, I find details about how it works. So it looks like every province in Canada will cover free routine visits, but there's a catch. It looks like you have to be in the country for a specific number of months first. And even more, it looks like some places, some provinces will actually charge you money. A monthly premium is money you would pay into the plan just to have access to free coverage, right? So when you look at all of these details that we grabbed out of the text, just letting our eyes go over, knowing we're talking about healthcare, you're looking to basically give a title to the paragraph. What's the pattern? What do all of these ideas have in mind? And I would say that every single key point we've circled talks about the cost of healthcare in Canada. In some cases, it's free, and in other cases, you have to pay money. So in a nutshell, casual expression, that means in general terms, if we find a statement of those 9 on the test that talks about the cost of healthcare, whether it's free or you have to pay money, chances are we're going to find that information right here in paragraph A, because it seems to be the paragraph that talks about the cost. All right, so it's a good starting point. We will not on the test have time to read every single paragraph every time we're looking at a different statement. So finding the one paragraph that most closely connects to the idea and starting your search there is probably the fastest way you're going to complete this part of the test. Okay, let's move on to paragraph B. Again, we know that this is all about medical coverage or healthcare in Canada. Have a look at that very first line, and I see a keyword. I'll circle it for you now. I see a keyword that is associated with medical coverage. Now, this word is ineligible. This is a higher level vocabulary word. I'm wondering if some of you here know what this word means. If you are ineligible for medical coverage, what does it mean? Do you have medical coverage or do you not have medical coverage? Do we know the meaning of this word? I'm just doing a check-in. If you do, it makes it a heck of a lot easier is why I'm asking. Yeah. And Shobit has it. Thank you for doing that, Shobit, so quickly. If you are ineligible for anything, it means you don't have access. See the beginning of that word in, I-N? That's what that prefix means. When you see that, like insufficient funds in your bank account means not enough money. So that I-N makes that word mean you don't have coverage. You're ineligible. You don't qualify for whatever reason. So I'm guessing that this paragraph is going to probably talk about who's eligible, who's not. And as I continue to look down, I'm going to skip over the specific details until I find another key point. And we're still talking about coverage or policies, but we read there are variations. When something is varied, it means it's different or it changes. And provincial relates to the provinces in Canada. So my guess is, just by skim reading super quickly here, this whole paragraph is talking about coverage. So whether we do have access or not, but the amount of coverage we get is going to vary province to province. So I would consider that to be the topic. And on your piece of paper, you're going to write down for paragraph A, write the letter A and the title that you're giving it. Paragraph B, we're telling ourselves, this talks about coverage, variations, or different plans if you wanted to use simpler language. So write that down before you forget. So as I said, when we get to those 9 statements, if there's something there talking about different policies and coverage, amount, and so on, chances are we'll have a look here at paragraph B as a starting point. Okay, on to paragraph C. Have a look. Usually, oftentimes, your first sentence is the most helpful. There's some pretty high-level vocabulary here, but can I open it up to you? I've done the first 2 sort of for you. Have a look at the first line in paragraph C. You can see we're still talking about services. We're still talking about varying province to province. Is there another key word there that you feel is going to be important in the understanding of this paragraph? I know the vocab's high, so I'll help you with it if you can't see it. But there might be someone here that can point it out to us. Just look in that very first line. Again, you know the whole thing's about healthcare in Canada. So is there a word that's sort of focusing your attention down? Yeah, you're getting to it. So Shobit, you're onto the right track. Services is the general part of the sentence. Chris has written to me privately, and Chris, you're right. So I wish you'd have shared this with everybody. Whether you look at it as uninsurable or excluded, those 2 words mean sort of the same thing. So an excluded service just means something that you're not entitled to have. You don't have access to it. It's kind of the same as ineligible, honestly. Those words are very similar. So we read here, okay, there are some services, again, they vary from province to province. Now that idea is sounding a little similar to what we just talked about in paragraph B. So I don't think this is the main topic of this paragraph. It's too closely related. So I'm going to skip over all those specifics about the type of services. I don't need them quite yet. I'm just looking for the main idea. And now I have it right here. So emergency services like 911, I'm guessing, are free, even if you don't have insurance. But family doctors are hard to come by. They're quite scarce. So anyone can access emergency situations. Not everybody has access to routine visits, perhaps like family doctors. And now it makes sense. Here's the main idea of this paragraph. Tricky, it's at the bottom. Because anybody can access a hospital emergency room in Canada by waiting it out, what the concern here is that some people are taking advantage of the medical system in Canada. They're abusing it. So if you just have, say, a sinus infection and you don't have a family doctor to go in and get treated or get prescriptions, some of these people might go to the emergency room and wait for hours to see a doctor there. But because it's not a real emergency, they're taking resources away from the person who's just been in a car accident and needs to be seen. So that's sort of in a nutshell, in my mind, what this paragraph's talking about. It's the abuse of these services. So if in those 9 statements you read something going on about that, about people jumping the queue or taking advantage of, chances are paragraph C is the best place to start. Paragraph D, last one. We know this is about healthcare in Canada. I see right here. Once again, we're talking about how policies can be very different province to province, but there's a slightly different focus here. It's saying the policies are alterable. When you alter something, what does that mean? Does anybody know the meaning of that word? Alterable is a very complicated word. But break it down and look at just the root word alter. When you alter something, as Shobit is saying, you are modifying it or you are changing it. If you sew, if you're a seamstress or take your clothing in to get altered, if your pants are too long and you need them hemmed, we call that altering the pants. So there's always ways you can try to guess the meanings of these words, but yeah, to change. So policies can be changed by the provincial government. There's our new focus. It's not just that the policies differ province to province. This paragraph is focusing more on the provincial government's ability to change policies depending on which province you're talking about. So once again, the middle part here is all about specific medical services. We don't need that right now. We just want the bare bones and the main ideas. So I'm looking more for the provincial government's responsibilities, and I see that here. So it looks like the reason these governments might alter the existing policy is just to make sure its people have access to what they consider reasonable services. And that's connected very closely to this Health Act, I guess, that started in 1984. So all of these ideas come together just to let us know that paragraph D basically talks about how the government can change a healthcare policy, loosely based on the amount of services it wants. So there's a lot going on in this article, and I know I went through that relatively quickly, but I hope it all makes sense. On your piece of paper in front of your testing computer, you're going to have these, hopefully the 4 letters as we've got here, and in your own words, the titles or the main points that you've captured, the main idea of each. So that takes, on your CELPIP test, I would say if you could do that in about a minute. So if you could take about 15 seconds per paragraph, no more, and make sure you've got your outline. This is an outline, so the main topics of each. Having this in front of you is going to make your life so much easier. Okay, my question to you, some of you are jumping ahead, which is totally fine. But my question is, here's statement number 1, and I'll read it out loud. It says, there are many people excluded from receiving medical insurance. So my question to you is, which of these 4 paragraphs here, A, B, C, or D, would we want to go to first to check out that information? And everyone's saying A. Now I have somebody saying C. I tell you what, how about, before we decide as a group, can you pull out the one word in statement number 1 that is the most important in this entire sentence? This is the word that is going to tell you which of these 4 paragraphs you're supposed to look at. Which word is it? So let's leave the letters alone just for a moment. Yeah, Shobit and Samuela, you make a good team. Shobit has given us the word. This is where most of you went wrong, I have to say, out loud. Everybody was saying, oh, A has to be the right answer. And I'm here to say, no, wait. There is nothing in statement number 1 that talks about the cost at all. That's the completely wrong approach. So maybe another time management tip would be to break it down and don't be so quick just to jump on an idea. You have to recognize what the keyword is first. That's always goes first. Excluded, did we talk about this? Excluded means you're not, you don't have access to. It's kind of like being ineligible. And we did talk about that earlier. So if excluded means you just don't have access to medical insurance, now when you look at those 4 answer choices, there's only one it could be. We're not talking about cost here, so A is wrong. We're not talking about abuse of services, so no, C can't be right. There's nothing there that talks about the government altering a policy. So the only paragraph I think that this could be in, if it's there at all, would be paragraph B. I labeled it coverage variations. You might have in your own mind called it changes to policies, etc. But it sounds to me like some people have access, some people don't. So there's definitely a variation. So let's check paragraph B. Again, excluded is the most important word from this entire statement. So you're basically looking for a synonym, a word that means the same as excluded. And no surprise, we've already looked at it. So this is why skim reading first, it makes your life a lot faster now, your job a lot easier now, because we've matched excluded and ineligible mean the same thing. So we've already matched this idea. Paragraph B is saying there are people that just do not have access to coverage. That's what statement 1's talking about. So just to be extra certain, because statement 1 says there are many people that don't have coverage, if we can find examples of people in paragraph B that are excluded or ineligible, we've got the right answer. And you don't have to look far. You just literally let your eyes go down to the next section Look at all of the examples of people, whether you're a visitor, a tourist, an out-of-province student, and so on. I wouldn't even read the whole list. As soon as you see 2 or 3 examples of the types of people that are ineligible or excluded from receiving medical service, that's all you need to know. So you've proven now without a doubt, you've matched up the keywords looking for synonyms, and you found examples of exactly what we're talking about. So that's how we know paragraph B is the answer. So we don't even have to look at paragraphs A, C, or D. So again, we've really cut down on the time it takes to answer these questions. The vocab is hard. I think that might be one of the bigger challenges here, but the reading strategies are the same. You're still identifying key points. You're still finding them in the passage and going from there. Nice job. Tricky, but we're getting there. Okay, let's do the last part really fast. We've got about 10 minutes left here, and I think we can just sneak through here for reading part 4. Reading part 4 is called Reading for Viewpoints, and I'll again quickly show you the whole passage here. The setup looks like reading part 1, quite honestly. Remember that email question? You still have your passage on the left. You've got your questions over here on the right, 2 sets. The bottom set's sort of like an email response, right? So we saw that in the reading part 1 earlier, but reading part 4 is very advanced level. So again, having a high level vocabulary, being able to make inferences and assumptions and connecting ideas is going to help you here as well. Okay, so from a time management standpoint though, we're still going to have a quick look through the passage to come to terms with the main idea. There's an extra step that we're going to be on the lookout though, and I'll mention it now. Viewpoints means opinions. So after we have figured out what the main idea of this passage is, we have to then be on the lookout for different people, maybe their names, maybe their job titles, but we must identify who these people are and what their opinions are about the main topic. And then the hardest part of all, why do they feel that way? So we're really focused on the who, the what, the why. So we'll skim read first to figure out who we're dealing with, and then we'll look for some information to answer some questions. Here's paragraph 1, and I've isolated it by itself because I think by now, I hope, can you do a quick skim here? Can you pull out the who and the what for me? You're very welcome to paraphrase in your own words or just copy the couple of words here into the Zoom chat. But I see a person's name. I know what that person's job is, and I know what they're doing at their job just by looking here in paragraph 1. Can we pull out some keywords? This is great practice for keyword identification. Remember, it's the first paragraph. It's going to set the whole topic for you, chances are. Always the most important paragraph to look in. So let's start with the easiest part. Who is this guy? What is his name? Yeah, well, I went, okay, the where right now, Samuela? No, not so much. I mean, sure, you can note it, but it's not the most important part. Close, Camilla. His name is Bradley Gordon. Okay. So you might see him referred to as Mr. Gordon or Bradley Gordon. It just depends on, I guess, how it's written. He's a teacher. Thank you, Shobit. Yeah. And what does he teach? What does he teach here? Remember things, names and names of languages and things have capital letters on them. So he teaches French. Good. But it looks to me like he's a very unusual French teacher. So that's where we got that info. Bradley Gordon has a French class and he combines, this is weird, he makes his students exercise while they're studying in class. That's the takeaway here. So because this is presented to us in the first paragraph, I am guessing that all the way through this paragraph, we're going to be learning more about his process in the classroom and perhaps why he does this. We'll probably also encounter a couple of people that either love his approach or hate his approach. That's what part 4 does. It gives you opposing viewpoints or perspectives. But we get a lot of info right from paragraph 1. And this one's the easiest paragraph, by the way. I will help you with this, especially as we are short on time. Here's paragraph 2. And again, we are just skim reading. We don't care about details right now. So I see all sorts of specific medical conditions in the first part of paragraph 2. I don't care. Let's skip it. I'm looking for something about Mr. Gordon. Ta-da! There's his name. Names are easy to find because they have capital letters. And again, it just reinforces this notion. I'm looking for something to do with exercise and studying. And sure enough, it just basically reinforces that this is what he does in his class now as a teacher. So nothing a whole lot new to learn there. But moving on to paragraph 3, I just happen to know notice Mr. Gordon's name here. And in the top line, my eyes couldn't help but catch, he had a personal experience when he was a student in university. And before I read anything more, I'm already guessing in my own mind that, okay, now I get it. If he is mixing exercise and studying in his own classroom now that he's a teacher, I'm guessing that he probably did this when he was a student at school and it was successful. And that's probably why he's doing it himself. So part of your success as a reader, especially in an advanced passage, is to make these assumptions and predictions to connect personally to the text. And as we read through this, sure enough, he was sick in university. He was tired, etc. And then he started exercising and studying. I figured that would be the case. And the very last sentence says that both once he did this, his grades and his health improved. So now we have the why. This is exactly why he does this in his classroom. This is all really, really helpful info. But notice the first half of this passage is just about Bradley Gordon. We've not yet met anybody else, so we can assume that's coming up next. Here's paragraph 4. I always take note when Mr. Gordon's name is mentioned. And all it says again is that he's had a lot of great success with his students and this approach. So that's nothing new. What is new, though, is the first person you're meeting. Can you find her name and job title for me, please? Just have a quick little look there. Paragraph 4 is nice and short. That's good news. Yeah, what's this person's name or job title? Either or. Principal Dawn, sure. Principal Dawn Epstein, yeah. So your eyes maybe catch her name. Oh, I didn't quite underline her name, but it's there, Dawn Epstein. She's the school's principal. Notice I underlined a few extra words there. The word is resistance. When you have resistance with somebody, it means there are challenges, there's trouble brewing. So right away, we learn that the principal doesn't like this program at all. Mr. Gordon loves it. The principal, though, not so much. The rest of that paragraph will surely tell us why she feels that way. I'm not going to bother with it yet. If I get a question about Dawn, the principal, I'll come back. But for right now, we're just trying to get familiar with this passage for time. And in paragraph 5, we do meet another person. His name is John Ratney, and he is a psychiatry professor. So again, I'm going to skip over his info for now. We can come back later once we get a question about him. But I'm sure that would tell us whether he approves or not of this program and why. I just want to finish off by looking for Bradley Gordon again. Yeah, there he is. And it just reinforces once again that his students are fit, they're eager to learn. His approach is successful for him. Okay, so this process in your part 4 might take you closer to a minute because it's more advanced, but it's the same exact process that we did earlier. Is just looking at the topic of each paragraph. Okay, and this leads us to our final time management tip, is we want to eliminate answers that are obviously incorrect. I know that sounds obvious, but it's a huge time saver. So we're not going to waste time looking for any keywords that just don't have anything to do with a logical answer. If you, of those 4 answer choices, especially in an advanced passage like part 4, if you can even get rid of, say, 2 of those answers that just don't make sense, if you're left between 2 choices and you still aren't sure, I want you to guess. That is your last time management strategy too, because you can't afford to spend, say, 3 minutes on one question. You have a 50-50 chance maybe of guessing right if you've got 2 answers left. So take a chance, move on to the next question. And if there's time left at the end, you could come back. But you will not lose marks on your CELPIP test if you get the answer wrong. So honestly, guess if you're not sure. Okay, last practice question. Let's finish it quickly. This says the article is about, so we're looking for the main idea of this whole article. I've got the 4 answer choices there, and I think hopefully you can answer this already because we've skimmed it through. Remember, you're looking for the idea that was covered in all 5 of those paragraphs. That is the only way to tell what the whole article is about. You are not looking for a specific detail. It has to be a general thought about the whole article. So I'll read these 4 answers aloud, and then I want you to, in the meantime, hopefully choose an answer and place it into the Zoom chat there. So is this article about A, conventional high school teacher with an unconventional idea? B, an ADHD expert teacher in Carleton High School? C, a partnership between a gym and a French teacher? Or D, a program introduced by Carleton High School's principal? And just in case it's helpful, I'll place the first 3 paragraphs on screen, but I'm looking at some wonderful thoughts coming into our Zoom chat. Yeah, some of you are very helpfully already excluding details that just don't match what we're talking about. A lot of you, almost everyone, is leaning towards choice A. And honestly, choice A is what I would go with as well. Remember when we skimmed this over, we learned the entire first half of this article is all about Bradley Gordon, who teaches French, but he makes his students exercise while they're learning, right? So again, looking at those 4 answer choices, Bradley Gordon teaches French at Carleton High School. He's not an ADHD expert. So that was obviously incorrect. Choice C says a partnership between a gym and a French teacher. Now, Bradley Gordon teaches French and he incorporates exercise into his classroom, but he himself, the teacher, does not have a partnership with a gym. So the vocabulary is maybe a little misleading, but when you think of the whole idea, obviously this is incorrect. It was not discussed anywhere. The only other possibility there that is still left on the screen would be about the principal. And remember how we met her in the second half of this whole passage, paragraph number 4 to be exact. We learned that Dawn Epstein, the principal, is resisting this program. She's not on board. We don't even have to know why right now. What we want to know is this whole article about this principal, did she introduce this program? And we have to say, no, that doesn't make sense. If Dawn Epstein, the principal, doesn't support this program, there's absolutely no way that she introduced this program to Carleton High School. So again, when you just think about logic and reasoning, we've excluded these other 3 answers. And we're left now with 1. So hopefully it's the right answer. And truly it makes sense, right? Bradley Gordon is the teacher that this whole article is all about. You might not have known what conventional or unconventional means, but knowing that he's a high school teacher and he's got this really different idea should push you towards answer choice A. And it is the right answer. Conventional means typical. Unconventional means very unusual. That's what those 2 words mean. So whether you knew those vocab words or not, I think you still had the foundation of that answer to get it right. So whatever answer you select is going to be inserted into the blank like it looks like here on the test screen. And if you wanted to change your mind, you could click on it and it'll open up the answer choices again. But this is indeed the right answer. So just to summarize here, the way we did it today anyway, and you're welcome to continue to study this way if it helps, I would always suggest you skim read first and only focus on the general ideas. For now, skip those specifics because you can come back to those ideas later once you know what the questions are asking you to find. So just get that general overview of what each paragraph's talking about with the main idea. And then when you go to the questions and answer choices, you must locate the keywords. Whatever the most important word, or maybe a couple of words are there, you're going to then try to find them in the passage. And if you've already skimmed it over, it'll give you a better understanding of whereabouts in the passage you're going to look and find that info. Okay, there will be some what I call red herrings. You might see some words that were used in the passage that are in those answer choices, but you have to look at the meaning of how those words are used. And if they're not important, if they don't relate to the question, then we're not going to spend our time looking at them and trying to find them. And as we just did now, especially on the harder parts of this test, just throwing away, eliminating wrong answers immediately is going to narrow the list down. Even if you can get from 4 answer choices to 3, that's better than nothing. And then if you have to guess, you increase the opportunity to get the right answer. Even if you guess correctly, you're still going to get a point. That's going to help you with your final score. Anyway, we're a couple of minutes over time, but I wanted to sneak in that part 4. It is very challenging, so I hope that you've got some helpful strategies there. So I'll maybe open up for some questions if there are questions, and of course, throw the mic back to Christina, as I know she'll have a bit more info about the programs as such at ILAC. Oops, there's the chat. There we go. Okay, let's see.
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Another incredible session with you. Yeah, you need to refresh, drink some water. So thank you so much again. Thank you for staying this long. I'm gonna just keep you for like 10 minutes maximum. And as I left here in the chat, we are giving 1 week of English classes, CELPIP preparation classes for the attendees. So thank you for staying until now here with us. Make sure that you please fill out the form. I have shared with you here the link. I only have 9 people who filled out the form. So then we will do a raffle, and we will select the winner for one free week of CELPIP preparation classes that we offer at ILAC. Okay, so let me just now go ahead and share my presentation on the preparation classes. Here, what you will see first, you can see now my presentation, great. So this is actually the submission form that I'm referring to. It's very short and simple, right? So for a chance to win one free week of CELPIP preparation classes that I like, you will simply need to click on the link that I share in the chat, fill in the form with your first, last name, your email, your phone number or WhatsApp number, and here you will select CELPIP as the demo lesson. So then you will enter that chance of winning 1 week of CELPIP preparation classes, okay? You need to also, once we do the shuffle, you need to please stay until the end, so then we will select your name, and if you're the winner, then we will call your name, okay? Let me just now move on to the next slide. Let's see if, okay. So why would someone choose to take some preparation classes? I think, we learned a great deal from Brandy tonight, but it was very short, only 1 hour, right? So at ILAC, we have expert exam teachers. We also offer flexible schedules where you could choose to come and study with us in person here in Toronto or in Vancouver. We have schools in both cities, Toronto and Vancouver, and you can choose to come on part-time or full-time schedules. We also offer affordable prices, and we have exclusive promotions that I'll share the details about those in just a moment. And so what do we offer? So CELPIP preparation classes in person, that's the first option that you see here at the top. As again, I mentioned in person in Toronto and Vancouver as well. We offer those in the evening from 6 to 9:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So you could choose the semi-intensive schedule 4 times a week, or if you're looking more into a part-time option, we also offer that part-time option A, we call it, so where you would be coming on Mondays and Wednesdays, or then Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you see here in this chart, you can see the skill that we teach each day, right? So if you're looking more maybe to improve your reading and writing skills, you would choose Monday and Wednesday. Or Tuesday and Thursdays, we focus on the listening and speaking skills of the test. Okay, so again, schedule is 6 to 9:30 p.m. every day, Monday through from Monday through Thursday. If you're looking for an online class, we also offer CELPIP Bootcamp. This is a 4-week course online, and we offer it in 2 different time slots. So 6 to 8 p.m. Toronto time, or then 6 to 8 p.m. Vancouver time. For those tuning in tonight and they don't know the time difference, there is 3 hours of time difference between Toronto and Vancouver. So again, if you're in Toronto time zone, 6 to 8 p.m. or then in Vancouver time zone, again, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Vancouver time zone, Monday through Thursday with an optional drop-in on Friday. Okay. In terms of promotions, for in-person under ILAC Net School, we offer 2 promotions. The first promotion is getting free weeks. So for every 5 weeks that you get, that you register, you get 1 additional week for free. So for example, you will pay for 5, but you will study for 6 because ILAC gives you that additional week for free. If you pay for 10 weeks, you will get 12 weeks and so on and so forth. So for every 5 weeks, you will get an additional week for free. Or then the other promotion, you can choose also to register for 8 weeks full time or 12 weeks part time, and ILAC will cover the fee of the CELPIP test, which is after taxes $327. Okay. For someone interested in online classes, we start classes every 2 weeks, and the length you could choose 2 or maximum 4 weeks. That's the course length. Tuition fees is $100 per week and registration $50. Okay, so if you choose a 4-week program, you will pay $450. And again, it's 8 hours of classes per week. What else do we offer? So we offer demo lessons as tonight's session. So once a month we do Zoom webinars, demo lessons, and then also we do Instagram lives where they're a bit shorter, 45 minutes session, but that's free demo lessons, Instagram lives content that we offer for all our attendees, and free trial lessons, meaning someone who is in Toronto and Vancouver and they're still hesitant to join our classes, we can offer you a trial lesson. You will join an ongoing class, and we offer those from Monday through Thursday, right? Remember that at school, in-person classes go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So you will just connect with us and we can book a trial class for the day that is more convenient for you. Remember, the schedule is from 6 to 9:30 p.m. What else can we offer you? So if maybe this is not an option that you're looking for to prepare for your take up some preparation classes, but you know someone who might be interested, who might benefit from our preparation classes, but when you refer this new person to us, your neighbor, your friend, a colleague, when you refer a new person to ILAC, you also you can earn $100 when you refer, again, a new person to our CELPIP preparation classes in person or online. Okay, so make sure that you connect this person that you know with us so you can earn your gift card. If you want to come and pay us a visit, if you want to visit us in our schools, again, we are located in Toronto and Vancouver. Downtown Toronto, you can see the school is at 425 Bloor Street East, and Vancouver is at 1168 West Cordova. Okay. And here I'm also sharing our contact details with our link or QR code to our WhatsApp. You can also email us at info@ilac.com or message us on WhatsApp. Whichever channel is more convenient for you, we'll be happy to connect with you and guide you through the process and answer, of course, all your questions. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm going to just stop the screen, stop sharing because I don't have the option to the chat box. Font format, the word is correct. So then I know that you have a question. Doesn't allow me say phone format. Yeah, so either WhatsApp or phone number. Any phone number. If maybe you don't have WhatsApp, you can just enter your phone number. All right, let me just see now how many of you were able to fill out the form. Okay, I'm gonna just check this in a moment. Okay, I see 29. That's fantastic. Should I give it a few more minutes? I see with Brandy and I, we're 41. Who wants to win a free week of preparation classes? I see Elena. Elena, you're familiar. Yes, I don't know if you recognize me, but yes, I've seen your ILAC. So thank you for joining in tonight. So, all right. Okay. So, all right. So should we raffle? I think so, right? Just to be mindful of everyone's time. Let me just copy here everyone's names, and I'm going to just paste them in this spin wheel. So I'm going to just share the screen because this is very fun. Do I need level 12 just before we do the raffle? I'm going to just answer a question here from Saori. Do I need a level 12 CELPIP bootcamp? So you need to be at level advanced. Yes. So level ILAC's level 12, right? Not CELPIP CLB 12, right? So I mean ILAC's level 12 advanced, so level B2, right? To join our CELPIP bootcamp classes. That's correct. Because it's a fast-tracked course and it only lasts 4 weeks. So we want to make sure that everyone who attends the class can keep up with the pace of the course. All right. So level 12, Reshma, you mean ILAC level 12 B2? Yes. Thank you, Brandy. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I hope I answered that question. How else can I still use it for me bootcamp for CELPIP? Yes, of course. Yeah, Marcella, of course. If you have a valid IELTS test score, then yeah, we can use it instead of another placement test of ours. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Brandy. Thank you, Jessica, and everyone for tuning in tonight. Fantastic session again, Brandy. And again, this recording, we will be saving it in YouTube, and I'll be sharing it with everyone in case you missed any portion or you want to review it later on. All right, so I'll stop the recording right now, and I wish everyone a good night. Thank you.